This training video is a continuation of what we were discussing in class, which is how to finish your assignment 1 by doing the Happy Countries analysis using Power BI. So here's the Power BI starter file that I gave you in class, and if you look at your Word document, the link to the starter file is there. And here's what we were working on in class, but I'm going to erase this to start over again. So this thing right here is called a tile, and a tile is a collection of fields that you apply a visual to. But I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to click on the ellipsis up there in the corner, and I will say remove, right? So get rid of it. And I also have page 2 right here, so I'm going to get rid of page 2 for right now. And I'm going to get started. So the first thing I said I want you to do is to put some branding information up there at the top, your personal, I don't know, just name and student ID and all that stuff. So how do you do that? You go to Insert up there on the top bar, and you say you can choose a text box, and you can put all your information there. And then you can put the name of the assignment. Of course, that's a white background color, so we need to select that and give it some color that'll show on a white background. So you can do that, and you can adjust the font and the size to make it look nice. And don't forget your student number there, Peanut. And then you can just say it's assignment 1, the Happy Countries project. And if you want, you can put your picture there. So you go to Insert, and then you can say Image, and just, I don't know, get a picture or something, or a picture of an animal or something. You can put it there. And anyway, now we're ready to start doing our analysis. So save it periodically, because you don't want to kind of, the computer locks up, then you lose all your work. So remember, you save your file as name and student ID. And at the end, you'll upload this to the Dropbox location I provided. So what I said I want you to do in the assignment write-up is to provide 3 visuals which correlate, which that means join together whatever you consider displays some interesting information about these various countries. I'm now going to spend a couple of minutes to show you how to do some interesting stuff with Power BI. So we said here in class, the way we do it is, since we imported the Excel file with the data, we now have over here, and you see countries index, that was the name of the range that we called our Excel sheet by, and those are the dimensions. Those were the fields in the Power BI spreadsheet. So let's start by clicking on country, and you see when I did this over here, as soon as you select a field, it gets dropped. It gets put on this thing right here, which is the canvas, and that thing is called a tile. That thing right there that I'm dragging around, we call it a tile. and a tile can display several fields together. Now, Power BI is very intelligent, and it understands that countries are country names. So you see here, I mean, it's saying Canada's up there, but it's doing its best. Don't make fun of it. And these are all the different countries we're seeing. Now, I can overlay another dimension onto this visual because Power BI is a business analytic dashboard. And let's remember that these numbers are, in a sense, they're kind of reversed, because number 1 normally we think is the lowest and 100 we think is the top. But the way they've done things here is they said 1 is the highest. So we're actually going to see the smallest value being the best. Maybe for our next assignment, I'll teach you to do some stuff in Excel to invert that. But for right now, it's not going to hurt us from learning Excel. Now, let's say I want to get a visual on which countries are the big power players. Maybe I'm interested. And what does power mean? Well, read the PDF to find out how they're ranking the countries. For right now, I'll go over here and click on power. And you see the biggest circles actually mean like the lowest in terms of power, and the smallest circles mean the highest in terms of power. Now, you have 3 things you need to pay attention to right here. You see, that's called the values well, and that shows you which fields are on your tile. So that's country. So pretty much I just have country now, and I also have power. And I'm going to go here. The second one that looks like the paintbrush, that is formatting. And the third one is analytics. We're not going to get into analytics. Maybe we'll do it for the project. That's a bit more kind of advanced. So we're going to be dealing with formatting and what's called the values well. See, fields. Okay, we're doing good so far. Now, I'm going to go to formatting. And you see here I have a drop down called bubbles, and I can adjust the size of them. And I don't want to make them too big because they'll overlap each other. And 10, I think, was the default. That was probably okay. So type in 10. Actually, maybe that's too big. What if I select 2? Anyway, do whatever you think looks nice. It's your assignment. Maybe I'll even go with 1. Maybe it was 1 originally. And I'll leave it to you to play with some of these other things. Auto zoom just means if you're moving around on the map, you can scroll in and out. And I don't think there's much else you can do here. Oh, you can play with some of these settings. But let's go and make another one, because I said I wanted 3 visuals. So right now, you see down at the bottom of the screen, I have one page called Dashboard. I'm going to click on the plus sign, and I'm going to make another page. And I'm going to maybe correlate country. So I'll choose country. And maybe I want to see about entrepreneurship. So I'll also select here and say entrepreneurship. And we said in class that we have to be careful now because Power BI wants to add numbers. And sometimes that makes sense. Now it doesn't. So the first thing I'm going to do is change my visual. So this is a map. And I'm going to go here, and it's very important sometimes you go to the table visual, and that just shows us all the fields that are there. And now that I'm in a table, see, country, well, that's just country. There isn't much you can do with that. But entrepreneurship is a ranking. So I'm going to go here and say don't summarize. We'll talk about later why that is. Just right now, the numbers we're using should not be summarized. So say don't summarize. Now I'm going to go and change. With this tile still selected, I'll experiment with some other visualizations to get something that looks good. And another thing you need to be aware of now is you see here, and I can't really explain this too much. I'm just going to ask you to play with it. It's something that's easier to play around with than to try and explain it. You see here I have legends. And if you remember your high school math class, you'll understand that legends are the dimensions we put on the axes of a graph. And if you don't remember that, it doesn't matter. It's not going to have any effect. But right now, I'm putting entrepreneurship on this legend, and values, I don't have anything here yet. And my axis is country, and that's not a particularly meaningful graph. Because I should be seeing countries and then entrepreneurship. So go back to your visual representation. And what happens if instead of country here, I drag country down to the legend? So I'm going to click X to get rid of entrepreneurship, and I'll drag country down there. And my axes, let's say if I say movers there. So I'll put movers up there. And I'll try experimenting with a few different visuals to find a good correlation. Nope, that's still not working for me. So what happens if I try... Oh, that's looking a little bit better now. And all I want you to do for this assignment, you're getting whatever it is, 15% or something, and you're not really doing much. I did most of it for you. What I want you to do is just play around and experiment with different settings here. So here we're seeing the countries being color-coded. Well, I'm not really seeing the country names, which I would like to see. So what happens if I change to another visual? And what happens if I try changing around which dimensions are in my axes? Oh, that's starting to look better. Now I have count of country, which I don't really want count of country. If I put country up there, I have it as being color-coded, and that doesn't visually tell me very much. So let's just play around and see if we can get something better. Oh, so this is showing me country, and it's showing me the ranking of entrepreneurship. And I can go here to formatting, and I can turn my data labels on so it'll display the country up there. And I can continue to just try playing around with what I put on my X and my Y axis. And let's see here. So column series, what happens if I put open for business as a column series? Well, here I'm getting entrepreneurship on my y-axis, and I'm getting countries on my x-axis, and I'm getting open for business up there at the top. That's color coding my lines, which I think there's too much data for that to really display well. And we did say that sometimes you can't really get more than 2 dimensions on your axis. So I'm going to go back to changing this to a table. And I'm going to have, see, I have 4 axes there. That's too many. You always need to have country because it needs to have something to correlate against. Let's say I want to correlate entrepreneurship with being open for business. So I'll get rid of power and I'll go back and try changing it to a visual. Well, still not too good. What happens if I only have 2 dimensions? So I'm going to go here and select table, and I'm going to select only country and entrepreneurship. Now let's go back and make it to be a visual. Well, once again, there's with 100 countries, that looks kind of good as a psychedelic piece of art. It's not a very meaningful graph. Oh, let's try our line chart. Well, it's starting to get better. Yeah, that's kind of good. So here, this is showing me which countries, and again, 80 is the lowest, so Tanzania would be the lowest, going up to United Arab Emirates being the highest. And if we scroll over, we actually see here Germany and Japan and the United States as being the top performers. So there's a lot of things you can do here, but that would count as being one visual. I think we all agree that's kind of a meaningful visual and that kind of shows information in a nice way. So now you've got one correlation, which is entrepreneurship and country. And again, the main point of this assignment is to just play around with it. So I'm going to click on the page button and make another page now, because now I have one visual, which has my branding, you know, my name and all that stuff up here. And it's showing me geographically, and then it's showing me by bubbles. And the bigger the bubble, really the lower the power of the country. And the smaller the bubble, like Russia, see that's, I guess, pretty much up there. So that's 2, and number 1 is United States. So you can kind of visually see, and maybe you can get a sense here. New Zealand is 35, and Australia is 60. Yeah, so New Zealand's a bigger country, so I guess they have more power up there. So power by country. And U.S. is 1, and Canada's 12. So, again, that doesn't really look like a 12 times bigger bubble to me, but I guess it is. So I have 2 visuals. I'm almost done. I just need one more. So I'm going to go to another page now. And you know what to do. You need to start by selecting country, because that's the correlate, right? That's the thing we're relating it to. And now it defaults to being a map visual. But let's go back here and change it to a table visual. So that just shows us the fields. And what would we like to correlate this time? What have we not done? Well, heritage. I think heritage means sort of whoever has the most pride in their country, or they have a sense of their historical importance in the world. So let's correlate countries to heritage. And there we go. And you know what to do now. So now you select another graphic. And the key to making this work, of course, what we saw here is you have to go into formatting. And you have to specify. And if you remember your high school math class, this will be easier because you're already used to thinking about X and Y axes. And if you don't remember, it doesn't matter. You're going to learn it in a couple of minutes right here, right now. So I'm going to see, there is my formatting, which I'll get to later. So you can put like background images and stuff if you like. It's here somewhere. I can't remember offhand where it is. Oh, because my video controls in front of it. Yeah, you can put like all kinds of things. Give your map a title if you like. See, now it's heritage by country. You could customize that if you like. So Peter's report. Sorry, this is Peanut. Sorry, Peanut. Peanuts report, heritage by country. And you can just play around with some of these settings. And now let's try putting different fields on the X and Y axis. You could also have filters, right? If I wanted, I could only filter certain specific countries or something. I could do that. Maybe I'll do it later. But for right now, I'm going to go to my values well. That's called the values well. And there's my axes. And let's remember, by default, any number is being summed. We don't want it summed. We want it to be do not summarize. You could rename your fields if you wanted to. We'll talk about quick measures later. But here, values. I'm not sure why I'm seeing do not summarize. Let me figure this out. Well, I guess some probably wouldn't make a difference in this case since it's just one value, but I still don't know why I'm not seeing do not summarize. I'm going to get rid of this page. I'll click on X. Yeah, so delete this page. See, if I go back to here, and you can rename your pages as well. So I'm going to call this entrepreneurship. I guess I spelled that right probably. Let's make another page. Oh, by the way, this one I'll call it my map. Map of power. And here I'll make another page, and I don't know what I'm going to call it yet because I don't know what I'll put there. What happens if I try ranking countries by actually rank is just the numerical value of them. Well, let's do that. Let's select country, and now it's a map, so let's leave it as a map for the time being. And each of these bubbles just shows the country name. Now let's correlate. So how do I correlate? I just drag another field over here. So I'm going to select rank and drag it and let go of it on my, what's that called? I hope you said visual. And we see the larger the number gets closer to 100, which is near the bottom of the list. So the smaller circles actually have a higher ranking. Can I put two dimensions on a map? That's an interesting question. Let's try correlating their rank to their quality of life. Because as financial analysts, that's the kind of question we might think about. We might ask, what makes a country to be top ranked? Top ranked according to what? Do people there live a better quality of life? Well, I'd like to think so. So let's investigate. I'm going to click quality of life and drag it over to here. And because I have bubbles, it's showing me, if I hover over any circle, it'll show me the rank and the quality of life, but the size of the bubble is determined by the first value. So if I go here to my values well, and you see quality of life is actually showing up in something called tooltips here. Let's go to our table, and I'm going to drag quality of life above rank, and I'm going to go and try it. Let's see if what that looks like as a map again. So there's my map, looks like a globe. And you can go and experiment with what your formatting options are, so you can change your data colors. So you could give different colors to different countries. If you had that much patience, you could go through all of them and do that. Maybe there's a couple of countries in particular you're interested in. You could highlight them with some special color. I'll just grab a few countries at random here. But I don't want to do this as a map. There's an area chart, and you can see the quality of life is that color, and the rank is the darker color. And the quality of life is linearly from actually bottom to top, because 80 would be the lowest, and then getting up to 1 would be the highest. And then you can see the countries those correspond to. Canada having the top quality of life, and then Denmark, yay, go Canada. And see, I can just, actually no, holding control and spinning my mouse wheel doesn't really do much for me here. It just scrolls my map left and right. Go back to your table and see what happens if you go to your values well, and if you maybe change the ordering of some of those. And remember what I said, you should experiment with which fields you put on the axes of your map. So here my values are rank and quality of life. See, I could change that around. And I could maybe drop like another dimension there. So I've given you enough to think about, right? Spend maybe like 30 minutes and just drill through all the different options and drill through the formatting options. And analysis we'll talk about later. You have to set up more stuff to make analysis work. Responsive just means that if you uploaded this to the website, which we'll talk about later, there's a PowerBI website, it would be responsive on a mobile device. It would scale itself to look nicely on a mobile device. And can I think of anything else to tell you right now? I think that's pretty good, right? That's showing me by country. It's showing me the quality of life, the ranking of the country, and the power. And it's maybe sort of letting me see just from the shape of the graphs. It seems for the most part that my power is kind of leading and then rank is following. And that kind of makes sense. So if a country has more power, see, like there's Latvia. Well, actually, it's less, right? Invert it, flip it around, because the higher it is, the further away from one it is. So Latvia is actually like one of the lower countries with a lower amount of power. And Egypt, because I think they have oil or something, or they have like some resources or something, I can't remember offhand, but they're kind of a little bit higher, and their power is higher as well. So their rank is 42, they're in the top half of the list, and their power is 25, so they're the top quarter of the list. So are you understanding how using a business analytics tool is a very powerful thing to do? Because if I have an Excel spreadsheet, I can see charts, I can correlate two variables, but if I have an analytics dashboard, I can correlate any number of variables. So let's try making one more. You only have to make 3, but I'm going to over-deliver and make 4. So here, this one I'm going to call quality of life, rank, and power. If I can fit all that in there, I'll just say qual, life, rank, power. And let's make one more, because I want to show you something called a gauge. So once again, I'll select country. And what am I going to correlate country to now? Well, what have I not done yet? Citizenship, which I guess is the concern people feel about being good citizens, maybe. So let's choose an area chart. And I guess Iran, that would be kind of the lowest here, because that's 80 out of 100. And if we go up here, then we get, oh, Norway. Interesting. Norway, Denmark, and Canada, and Sweden. Those appear to be the highest ones. Let's correlate that to heritage, because maybe we're investigating a question now. We're saying if people have a pride of their heritage, does that give them more of a sense of being good citizens? Well, it's your graph. You tell me, you find out. So let's click here on heritage. And, well, Mexico is a place that apparently their heritage is 5, so they're near the top of the list. They have a strong sense of their heritage, but their citizenship not that great. So that would be interesting to investigate why that is. And here we have Panama, which has a higher ranking of the value of citizenship. They don't have a big sense of their heritage. And here, for example, we have Iran, so citizenship near the bottom, but heritage kind of around the middle of the list. And here we have Egypt, so they have a strong sense of their heritage, I guess, with the pyramids and all that. They don't have a strong civic sense of citizenship. And India, I don't know what's going on with India. Maybe we didn't import the data properly or something, because citizenship's about in the middle, and I would think India would have a strong sense of heritage. Maybe when I move the data over from that PDF to the Excel sheet, for some reason that value just didn't get there. So that's something else to be aware of when you do data analytics. You have to be careful to prepare your input data properly. And I'll leave you, next time we do this, I'll put you in charge of doing that so you can do it the right way. Now I want to show you another thing here, which is called a gauge. So I'm going to select this control called a gauge, and I'll drop it onto my same tile. I said I was going to drop it onto my same tile. It's not listening to me. It didn't hear me the first time. Now pay attention. If you have multiple visuals on one tile, then they interconnect with each other. So if I change the setting in one visual, then it's going to affect the corresponding fields in the other visual on the same page. So let's see what that means. Now currently I have a visual, but I have not assigned any fields to it. Okay, Peter Smart Guy, what fields would you like to assign? Well, let's try rank. So I'll click on rank and I'll drop it on my gauge. And now, why am I getting 3,200? That's a lot. Oh, that's because it's making a sum, which I didn't want it to sum. So how do I get rid of sum? Well, you know what to do. You select your visual and you go to your values well over here and you look at rank and you say do not summarize. And this is not giving me the do not. Oh, I think because I don't have a Yeah, for it to do not summarize, I think you have to correlate it to a static value like a country. Let me just try an experiment here. And again, the purpose of what I want you guys to do is experiment. I want you to play with it and learn it by yourself. That's why I'm not giving you very detailed instructions. So let's go here again, values well and rank. Yeah, I'm not getting the option to do not summarize. I'm doing something wrong. And for the sake of this activity, it doesn't really matter too much because it's just putting your hands on Power BI. But it bothers me why I'm getting that wrong. Anyway, let's get rid of this visual by clicking the ellipsis and saying remove. And there's something else here we can have, which is a see there, for example, if I choose one data point here, or I can hold the control key and select several data points, and then my values being shown on the corresponding visual will be limited to what I put here. So that's one interesting thing. I'm going to try and squeeze one more into here. So I'll squeeze that over there, and I'm going to select yeah, because I had that tile selected when I chose another visual. I just pressed Control Z to undo that. So now I'm going to click over here somewhere to just be in an empty space. And I don't want that either, so I'll get rid of that by pressing the delete key. Or I'll go to the ellipsis and say remove. Oh, slicer, that's what I was looking for before, slicer. So let's drag slicer over to there. And the purpose of a slicer is you can select only a subset of data. If you don't understand what that means, pay attention, I'll teach you. So we're going to put country into our slicer. So we'll drag country field onto slicer. And now I can select one or more, or I can hold the control key and select several countries, and it will restrict the data only to those countries that I selected up here. So anyway, I think that's enough for one assignment. I'm going to wrap up the video. Just play with it. Just get me 3 interesting visuals, whatever you think is interesting. I promise I won't get mad at you and give you a failing mark because I say it's not interesting. Just hand something in and you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And later we'll talk about some of the more interesting visuals, such as the key performance indicators and things like identifying influencers in the data set. See, because right now we're by ourselves selecting our fields. You can actually ask Power BI to go and discover interesting things by itself. But that's going to take a little bit more familiarity with the tool, so we're not going to do that right now. Anyway, that's it for this video. Have fun and hand it in before next week. And then we'll have our quiz, and then we'll keep going. Good night.